Not all relationships of any kind, whether they're individual personal relationships uh, or intentional communities or businesses, not all of them are meant to last. And so you kind of want to assume that they won't last forever. I think till death do us part is a ridiculous goal for a relationship. And when I have officiated weddings, I never use that term. And none of the couples I married stayed together. They stayed together for a while. Hopefully, they served each other well. And hopefully, they also split up well. Because everybody has to have an exit strategy. My exit strategy is to die. For other people, they need to have the resources to leave wherever they're at, to not be trapped there. People being trapped sets you up for conflict, bad conflict. We don't want desperate people. So let's plan for the end. And I've had relationships. My last girlfriend was here for 5 years, and she came in a little lost about what to do in her life and without a wide-ranging set of skills. And during her 5 years with me, I was like a mentor to her, and she learned a lot just by being in the space where she wrote a lot. She learned how to manage a kitchen better, or at all. And she dealt with people from all over the world, speaking different languages, and she saw interpersonal things. She saw the stuff I have to deal with, some of which are really tricky problems. She learned a different way of living. And so I'm very proud of our time together. And our splitting up was fairly okay. You know, were there emotions? Yeah, there were emotions involved with that. Anytime you end something, there's going to be some feelings around it. Okay, why don't you not be here? Like, you're not invited to this party, okay? What a pretty dog, huh? Surrounded by dogs all the time. And now I'm going to be even more confused being surrounded by a bunch of people, all of whom have their own needs and many, power and control issues. But I really believe we can do better. My part in that is to write it up in detail so that people know what they're agreeing to. And that we even agree to how to arrive, how to learn and be part of being a functional, be filling functional roles, and also how to leave, having benefited, having built your career, having something you can put on your resume. So that's how we care for each other. Whether we're investing in each other forever, which is unlikely, or whether someone comes here to learn what they want and don't want out of a community, that's okay. I've been watching people's videos about them visiting, like usually as volunteers, visiting communities, and a lot of them sound pretty horrible. Like showers where creepy guys watch you shower, or toilets without any privacy. And, this is kind of a hippie openness way of doing things. And it's like, well, it's pretty easy to have a private place to use the bathroom. And it's pretty easy to have private places to shower, tiny bit more infrastructure investment. But I think we should have really good infrastructure, really good designs, designed for people to be comfortable and happy. And in the state things are in now, they're not all perfect. They're dirty. There's animals living in buildings. And one of my tasks, I suppose, is I could just walk around to different parts of the property. In fact, I need to do this and make a whole list of all the to-do items to make that particular space be optimal. And also envision what the long-term plan is for that area. Do we need to bulldoze a tunnel across something so there's more access to that area? Do we need to build walls for more privacy in that area? Where are root cellars going to go? Because I want a bunch of root cellars. And I have a big property. I need spaces for kids. That's one of the hardest ones. And it's going to require a large investment to make a space good enough for kids. And kids of different ages need different things. So from, pre-born pregnancy stage to being born and being a newborn and having staff to help with that so that parents aren't overwhelmed, mothers in particular, since the kid is actually feeding off of them probably, to make that easier for them. And then having spaces for toddlers that are safe and and kids that are old enough that they want to be digging holes over there. When I was a kid, we dug holes for no reason at all. I don't even know why. We just thought it was fun. And having even some kids' activities be useful activities. And then spaces for adolescents where they can be noisier than your average adult, and they can be developing into adults that are well educated and intelligent and treat each other well. And I'm not an expert on any of that, so I need other people running that stuff. I want that all walled in. I don't want any security issues of some kid going off and falling into a ravine or something, or running into a rattlesnake and getting bit. I need to set up medical services, so I have EpiPens, and I have an emergency plan if somebody breaks their leg or something, and even a relationship with a medevac helicopter to get people out of here to a hospital. I mean, everyone's in a different situation, but we share a lot of common needs and problems. So the kitchen system absolutely has to be locked down and perfect. I don't want this to be like a rainbow family gathering where people get dysentery and hepatitis and stuff like that. Some of that is solved with social agreements. I have thoughts about, people getting STD tested before they even come here. Does that matter if they're asexual? Someone asked me that. And it's like, well, no, I guess it doesn't. But somebody who's asexual may change their mind at some point. And some people are in couples, and so they share diseases just within themselves. Do I want people here with AIDS? No. The medicines are too expensive, and there's a risk that be shared. And I might want to set up a registry where you say, these are all the ones I have, and this is my test results. And I make it not necessarily public to the world, but certainly within a group of people. People do have sex outside their relationships, often by agreement, and in fact, it better be by agreement, because I don't want any infidelity on the property. It's a sin, and it's a bad one, and it's common among people, even if they follow a religion that says it's a bad thing. So it's a lot of tricky shit we deal with, And there are people who have been trained socially in dysfunctional families to have horrible communications with people. Like, I didn't grow up with a family that yells at each other when they don't get what they want. I don't recall my parents ever yelling at each other. And I wasn't raised to yell at people. So it kind of freaks my shit out when some people, that's their standard mode of communication when they're not getting what they want. And I have been involved with someone who immediately resorts to that. Very inconvenient. It's almost impossible to solve problems with people who deal with things that way. And so, how do you filter that out? I guess you ask people, do you often have a lot of yelling in your relationships? Do you have domestic violence? Domestic violence is something that at some point you have to get the police involved. I don't want the police involved in anything in my life. So, therefore, we have to be protecting people and not doing dumb stuff. I can't have systems where people are, leaving the property drunk or going out and drinking somewhere else and then driving drunk. I'm against drunk driving, and I have had a beer when I'm drinking. But that's no different than me having a beer, getting in my vehicle, and then driving. And around here, no one cares about that kind of stuff. People do it all the time. And that's one of the benefits of living in a semi-anarchic environment. But in terms of our relationships with the outside community, sorry, there's no freedom there at all. Like, don't fuck locals. That's the short version. And is that controlling and restrictive? Hell yeah, it is. And that's how we don't have local problems. And I've had people come to my house and then they do fuck locals, and then it causes people to get upset about things and damages my relationship with people. And so I have this massive set of rules which are really don't do anything with the local community until you're trained not to be a dumbass. Sorry, it's hardcore. So, I don't know. That's not true. I say I don't know a lot when I actually know very well what the problem set is. And so I guess I just have to write that up. I can actually write up different communities that have different rule sets and have those exist in different places on the property. Some of them recording and making YouTube videos, and people are on camera a lot, and then whole areas where there's no photography or video at all. That's a tricky case with kids where I want to set up kids spaces. Well, some of those kids spaces could be a bunch of kids making videos, and they've all agreed to that. Their parents agree to it. We still protect their identity. We make sure that kid is getting a bunch of the money that they're making, and it's going into a trust so they benefit, and so we don't have parents who are actually using their children to make money off of them. This is all basic shit, in my opinion, taking care of people. But the term taking care of people, like in permaculture, there's like people care or something like that. And it's like, that's not really defined well enough to be useful. We have to break that down into a whole bunch of details about how we take care of people and how we don't. There's some people who are just always needy. They always need something. And there's other people who aren't. They're fairly flexible and they're strong. And details don't matter, you know. If there is a bat in your cabin, do you have to go find someone to fix that problem? Can you just ignore the bat? Can we then focus on fixing the building so there's no bats in it in a very rational way instead of having people freak out and be like, oh my God, there's a bat in my cabin. This is a horrible thing. How could this ever happen to me? I'm such a victim of the universe. And it's like, it's a fucking bat in your cabin. It's not the worst thing in the world. Is it good? No, it's not. Some percentage of bats have some kind of disease you don't want to get. But we're dealing with things as they are, especially starting out. It's going to be a big fucked up mess. When I first moved here, the floor was full of water and bat shit, and I was wearing goggles and wearing rubber gloves, scooping up rat shit and bat shit and fixing roofs. And I mean, I spent 3 years fixing the place to just be survivable. Yeah, I think it was less than that, but it took me 2 years to get solar panels. And now that was a long time ago, and solar panels were far more expensive and difficult to get. I currently do not have a solar person, a solar electrician person, and I need to have one. Either an outside person I trust a lot or maybe somebody on site. If I could recruit somebody who really knew everything about solar and could make relationships with local businesses where they can get supplies, and we can start to electrify the entire place. And you might say, oh, I want to live without any electricity. Fine, I can have a place for that. And you might change your mind later. It's really annoying to live without a lot of light. We can set, places that use very little electricity. In fact, it's very much within my goal set that we all learn to live with very little electricity. I have goals, but I want there to be light at night. I encourage you to use my videos to think about what you really want and don't want. Think about all the conflicts you've had with people all your life, and then wonder, how could a community work where I don't have those conflicts? And what part of those conflicts are caused by me, and which ones are caused by other people? And how can I not have any of those people near me? Are there deal breakers that you wouldn't want that kind of person in the community at all? I have those. You better have those. Really think hard about it. And try and have as few control things as possible, as few needs as possible. Be flexible, be open, but set your boundaries and say these are non-negotiable boundaries. And figure out if those are compatible with this space or not. It's really tricky stuff.